You're listening to Eagles Unfiltered.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
This podcast is powered by Eagle Maven of Sports Illustrated.
Third down and one.
Hurts.
Keeping. First down and a touchdown.
Here are your hosts, Ed Kraz and Conor Myles.
Thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Eagles Unfiltered, powered by Believe Podcast Network and sponsored by BetOnline.ag, the best sports betting website around. Remember, use promo code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V, to get your initial deposit matched up to 50% on BetOnline.ag. We're also sponsored by BetterHelp.com. Use our promo link, BetterHelp.com/Eagles, to receive 10% off your first month of online therapy. Co-host Conor Myles with a very special guest, former Philadelphia Eagles backup center, and played along the offensive line for multiple years, and also has the record for the most transactions placed on this single player in franchise history. That's going to be backup center Julian Vandervelde, who played alongside Jason Kelce for multiple years. And I'm sure there's a better way to introduce him than to bring up about all those transactions, right?
That is the best way to introduce me. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's the way that I introduce myself at parties. It's like, hi, Julian Vandervelde, record holder for most transactions by an NFL franchise. Yeah, no big deal.
All right, well, Julian, I do really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your insight on Jason, because maybe not everybody knows this, but you were a part of that 2011 draft class. You were actually drafted a round before Jason, so you probably have a better insight of how he came into the league and how you guys grew as rookies, and how he grew into that starting role immediately from the jump from his rookie season up until now, retiring 13 years into this league. I don't think anybody has a better perspective on him potentially than you yourself, especially being his backup as well. So I'm wondering if you could share any stories, any insight on him, because he did just announce his retirement yesterday, Monday, March 4th, in a really tearful, emotional press conference that I'm sure we all watched. I'm sure you watched it yourself as well. Could you give us some insight on Jason so we can all get a feel for him?
Yeah, I mean, Jason was always really authentic. I think that's the best word that I can use for him is authentic. And that was the Eagles had a really good run for a while of guys who were like that, like Nick Foles comes to mind, right? These dudes who just what you saw from them on the field in terms of their demeanor and their energy, and their knowledge and their dedication to the game. That was them all the time, and Jason was one of those guys who just like I'll tell you. So I have a couple of kids now of my own, and our 5-year-old is 110% cranked up all the time. Right, has no off switch. There's no volume knob on this kid. He is just 1,000 miles an hour. 24/7 until his body gives out and he passes out, and then he wakes up and he's right back to 1,000 miles an hour. And Kelce was the same way, right? You'd see him whether he was in the meeting room, on the practice field. I remember going to a live concert that was outdoors once, and me and Mike Bamiro, another former guy, were kind of hanging out about the middle of the crowd, just kind of watching this whole thing. And Jason's up at the front, like first, second row with his shirt off, just going nuts to this like techno band that was up there or something. I mean, the guy played the way that he lived, and hopefully will continue to live, because that sort of genuine energy and authenticity is hard to find.
Oh, I 100% will continue to live that way. Have you listened to his podcast?
Yeah, no, I'm glad they've got that so we can still experience, him on a weekly basis.
Yeah, the best thing about that podcast is it makes you feel like you're one of his buddies. It makes you feel like you're right there. You're experiencing these situations, these stories that he's telling with him. It's really the most authentic feel you ever get from an athlete on that New Heights podcast. So we're big fans of that show. I'm glad you listen to it as well and stay close with him. Also, now, there's one thing that you told us back on Eagles Unfiltered when you came back on the show a couple years back, that there was some downs in Jason Kelce's career that we all know about. But interestingly enough, there was one down during Chip Kelly's first training camp with Jason Kelce, and I wondered if you can recount that story for our viewers.
I think this is one of the things that sets Kelce apart is like you would never in a million years, find me talking to a coach this way. But yeah, I mean basically the story goes so Chip came in and Chip and Andy were polar opposites. Just for clarification, like Andy was a very players coach in terms of you guys know what got you here. You know your bodies, right? We're going to open up the weight room from this time to this time. We're going to give you these general guidelines. Practice is going to be from here to here. Like, but you are an adult. You are responsible for yourself, and so we're going to, for the most part, let you guys kind of handle your business and be grown men. And in comes Chip, a whole new staff. He's bringing a college strength and conditioning staff. I think they came from Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. And Chip comes in with this idea that he's just going to micromanage everything. And don't get me wrong, like I love Chip. One of the things that's true of both Chip and Andy was they were both very genuine in the fact that they wanted the best for their players, right? They wanted the best out of every person. They just went about it a completely different way. And so we were in the indoor facility for one of the first workouts. It might have been the first workout with these guys. And they've got us just like running, like sprinting 40s, doing shuttles, right? Just breaking people's balls left and right. Really treating this team of veteran players like college freshmen. And at one point in time, Jason just lost it. Just couldn't, it's like we've all been through this. Right, we've made it to this level at this point. We're not boys anymore. We're men, and we understand that you're trying to squeeze everything out of us. But like, you can't do that with 30-year-olds the same way that you can with 18-year-olds. And he just basically stopped in the middle of the workout and got up in the coach's face, swearing and cussing at him. I don't know how many swear words I'm allowed to throw around on your show, but
oh no, you can. We want the full thing.
Just drop it. Let me go to a room where my kids can't hear me, or where my wife can't hear me. I just got the hey from no, but he's like, this is fucking bullshit. This is goddamn. Are you fucking kidding me? We're not fucking freshmen. This ain't fucking college. You can't be doing this bullshit. But I'm not gonna stand up for this. Just going in on these guys and stormed off out of the bubble through the big open doors. And just kind of walked away, and the whole place just stopped and was dead silent. And after like 20 seconds of just kind of stunned silence, the new head strength coach was like, I guess we're done. And we were done, and that was it. And we all just kind of left and went to go shower. Like that was the end of that workout. And I mean, Jason's the kind of guy who he has a strong set of beliefs. And believes that people deserve to be treated a certain way. And part of that is, with respect that they may have earned or garnered. And if he didn't feel like that was the case, then he was going to let you know about it.
And the reason why I love that story so much is because Chip Kelly's first season in Philadelphia, that was Jason Kelce's third year in the league, and yours as well. So it showed what type of leader he could be, but it also showed how much he cared about his teammates. And it embodied the person that Philadelphia was getting early on in Jason Kelce. So that was one of the early stories that came out about Jason Kelce that showed what type of player, the grit and the determination that he had, just embodied Philadelphia. So that's an early story about how we got Jason Kelce the way he is now.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no more Kelce way of doing it than that.
And another thing I wanted to ask you, since you both came in the league together, were you surprised that Andy Reid entrusted Jason Kelce with a starting job right out of the gate as a rookie?
I mean, a little bit, but at the same time, I think at the time, yes. Because I really didn't understand, I think at the time, kind of how the NFL worked. I was surprised, that I was on the active roster that first year. I didn't think that I had earned that over other guys. And, there were a couple of vets who told me, like, dude, they drafted you, they've spent the money on you. Like, that's the business side of this is like, they're going to have you on the roster this year. That's just, it was a much more traditional sort of office under Andy than when Chip came in after that. But but by the same token, like I looked at like Jamal the incumbent center at the time as kind of this pinnacle. Like he'd been in the league for a long time, grizzled veteran, like give you advice at the drop of a hat. And so there was this kind of feeling, I think, that Jason was the heir apparent, that he had been drafted to be the next guy to replace Jamal. But the speed with which it happened, I think was kind of shocking at the time, right? And then you fast forward, 2 years, 3 years into the future, and you get to the point where, I've said before, I think like within a year of Chip coming in, I think Jason knew Chip's playbook better than Chip knew Chip's playbook. Like the way of reading coverages and, adjusting to blitzes and resetting protections. Like under that system, the quarterback was supposed to have almost no responsibilities so that he could just play fast and, and make his count and his reads and do his thing. So all of the offensive adjustments were placed on the center. And Jason was just, he never missed. The guy never missed. He never missed a blitz. He never missed a stunt. Like he picked everything up. He made all the right calls. It felt like, like he had a crystal ball and he knew what defenses were doing before they would do it. And so as much as like the physical things, which don't get me wrong, for a guy who was relatively my same size, maybe even a little bit smaller weight wise, to be like moving the kind of weights that he was in the weight room was astounding. He's just a physical specimen. It was his brain, I think, that set him above other people in regards to his understanding of the game of football as a whole, like what was happening on the field and how to adjust to it to put us in a better situation.
And then, Julian, just to round out the show, can you describe to the viewers the impact Jason Kelce, from a player and friend, has had on your life on and off the football field?
I think just the giving everything all the time, being dedicated in the moment to the thing that you are, that you have in front of you. It's very, very easy, I think, in life. And, I have a tendency to get distracted by things, right? Like I might have a main thing that I'm doing, I'll walk into a room, forget why I'm there. You're at work, you start a project, you get halfway through, you move on to something else. Like it's very, very easy, especially in the modern day, I think, to get distracted by the next thing. And Jason was 100% in the moment that he was in all the time, right? If we were at practice, he was fully present at practice. If we were, out for like lineman dinner, he was fully present at lineman dinner. And watching like the clips of him with his kids and, the way that he talks about, his wife and everything, like when he is with his family, he is 100% present with his family. And that ability and it's something to strive for. I think that's, when you talk about the impact that, that somebody has on life, it's like you look at that as a model of, how do you achieve greatness by being fully present and giving your focus and your attention, to the thing that you are doing in that moment and not letting yourself be distracted by a million things that maybe don't matter at that time. And he was just a master of that, of just being there, So I think that's the big thing. If you look at his body of work in his life, like, man, if you can just be where you are and not always be looking at the next thing, but always be kind of present in that moment, like you're going to enjoy life more. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be more dedicated to the thing that you're doing, which influences other people to also care about that thing. It's going to elevate, your performance in whatever that thing is that you're doing to a higher level.
Absolutely correct.
Speaking with former Eagles offensive lineman Julian Vandervelde here on Eagles Unfiltered. Julian, Jason thanked Jeff Stoutland and he actually credited him with reviving his career and keeping him in Philadelphia in 2016 during the worst season of his career, during his retirement press conference. I'm wondering if you could give us some insight onto that relationship between Jeff Stoutland and Jason Kelce, just because you were there personally to experience it all. And I think a lot of fans don't understand the concept between the relationship between an offensive line coach and his pupils along the offensive line. So we got a glimpse of that relationship during that press conference and during Jason's time in Philadelphia and Stoutland's time in Philadelphia. But could you give us some background information to that as well?
Well, first of all, Stout is on another level, like as a coach. And I've had some good ones. I've had one not so good one and a lot of really, really good line coaches over the years. And And Jeff Stoutland is the pinnacle of what it means, I think, to be an offensive line coach. He's right up there. And so I credit him a lot with also reviving my career. He was, at the time I was a guard, I was kind of waffling, in and out. I wasn't entirely sure where I actually fit or what I was, going to do. And, and I remember at one point in time, we had, like 4 or 5 centers in the room in camp. And I kind of stuck my foot in the door at one point in time and asked if I could take some snaps. That I thought I could do that. I'd like to, start taking snaps with the quarterbacks and, and spend some time learning what the centers were supposed to do, because I thought that was a more natural position. And he, to his credit, took that sort of hubris and he really liked it. You could tell that, just anybody who was willing to stick their neck out there and, and speak their mind and challenge what was happening, and so that was, he allowed me to start taking snaps before practice, and a couple of days later, start watching film with the centers. A couple of days later, start getting some scout team reps and really work into it. So I also credit Scout with kind of my, and then obviously I had the injury and everything, but even through that, like, he believed in my recovery and everything. And it wasn't until it was really apparent that I just couldn't, play at the level that I had before, that I think, it kind of ended for me. But when you talk about, Stout has a very, very tight relationship with his centers in general, with everybody, yes. But especially with centers, the way he would always talk about, like being at Alabama and, the sessions that he would have with just him and their starting center at the time, the way that they would watch film, the way that they would break down blitzes. I think that he has a special respect and a special relationship, with that position, especially with the center position and kind of the responsibilities that are placed on it. And, for a guy like Stout, who is also a very genuine, speaks his mind, does not sugarcoat things kind of guy, to be in a room with, straightforward, hyper intelligent, hyper aware, Jason Kelce, like, there was never any bullshit. There was never politics, between the two of them. That's it's a thing that happens in those rooms, and you see it happen between other guys, but there was just a respect and an understanding for the way that they each felt about the game of football and about the way that life should be lived and the game should be played. And it really, really, I mean, you want to talk about sometimes in life, in the, just in the world in general, people just link up that are meant to be together, right? That just seem like two puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly. And you talk about it with, husbands and wives and soulmates and love stories and stuff like that. But it happens all over the place. And this was one of those things, I think, where the kind of guy that Stout is and the way that he coaches and what he asked of and demanded of us as players, and the type of person that Kelce was and what he was willing to give and what he was willing to go through and the way he was willing to lead, like, you could not have put together a better combination of center and coach than those two, and it shows in the results and the success that they've had.
That's great perspective from Julian right there. And that's exactly why I asked this question, because Julian's in that room. He's in that offensive line room. He's learning from Jason. He's learning from Jeff Stoutland. He sees their relationship up close. He has that perspective that we lack. And that's the reason why I asked him that question. And what a detailed oriented answer that you gave us, sir. I really do appreciate that. Now, before I let you go, is there anybody I should be reaching out to for more answers and questions on Jason Kelce's career? Or do you have any more stories for us?
I'm good. I'll leave it. If you get any time with any other guys, by all means, hit up Dallas Reynolds. See if you can get him to tell some stories too. The Storm and Mormon's got a couple of good ones too, I'm sure.
All right. We'll do so, Julian. I really do appreciate you coming on, sir. You have a wonderful rest of your evening. And again, thank you for tuning in to Eagles Unfiltered.